Hello.
You there?
I am. Can you hear me and see me okay?
Yep, I can hear you and see you. Okay. Are you in your office?
I am. I was going to be at home, but it was a disaster and I had no idea. I have so many students staying at the house, so I, I was just going to be here in the office where it's quiet.
Okay. Well, I emailed you. I don't usually talk to the guests before the show
Oh,
because
I
I
didn't see. I
uh,
didn't see that email.
huh?
That's I didn't see that email.
No, that was my text message to you when I said,
Oh,
yeah, because I wanted to be like super transparent. So if I talk to you before, then it's like kind of scripted and I'm not looking.
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, okay. Well,
Okay.
that's right, because it gave me some things to think about, so it's all
Okay.
good.
Cool. So I am just going to, we're already recording. I'll tell the person to take out this part, but all right, so let's do it. Hey guys, my name is LaSharis Luster. Welcome to the Get Over Yourself podcast. This podcast is geared around the Get Over Yourself book that I co-authored with my husband, Dr. Eric Luster. Mainly, Get Over Yourself is how we should run our lives in order to change our mindset, let go of false truths, and own who you are, the reality of what's actually happening, and who you are guided to become. So today I have Becky with us. And if you all have read the book, you know that Becky is a huge character, a very important character in the book. In fact, I think a lot of things swayed in the direction that they did because of Becky's character and who she was back then and who she has become and who she is today. So funny story, Becky. I was looking before the meeting. I was like, okay, well, let me look and find if there's a CV or a resume out there for Becky. And
Oh, Lord.
yeah, I looked on LinkedIn and I'm like, nothing's coming up. How impossible is that? Then I said, oh no, I know she's got a Facebook page. I'll go on the Facebook page because I know I look forward to your letter every year. And then I go on there and I said, wait a minute. I was like, I know what Becky does on a high level, profession wise, but I realized in that moment that we didn't really know. I mean, you know a lot of what's going on. I know a lot of what's going on, but our relationship has never been geared around titles or what we do every day. So I, in that moment, also then was like, okay, well, that's a real authentic relationship. Because I had an interview with Lanye a couple weeks ago, and we talked about how people should stop hiding behind titles and have real relationships. So I never thought about that until I had to pull up what does Becky do professionally and who is Becky outside of how I know Becky. So I'm going to ask you to give us your personal story, and then we'll get to know you, or no, your professional story, and then we'll get to know you personally.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess professionally, that my life has always been geared around children. And that was kind of my start. And since 10 years old, I always wanted to be a classroom teacher. And my parents were both teachers, so that's probably where that came from, as well as during as young as I was not familiar as far as what jobs or careers were out there of working with children beyond being a teacher. So that's kind of what I did, and got my degree in elementary education, and I was a double major with sociology and had no idea that there was a field of social work, and until I went and taught for a year in Chicago, in the inner city Chicago in the Lawndale district, and realized that I really didn't care for teaching. I found it, I was more drawn to wanting to get to know the children individually. And so I reached out to a school counselor a high school counselor I had, who had a degree, a master's in counseling, and discussed with her what my options were. And she guided me towards doing school social work. And I'd have to get a degree, a master's degree in social work in order to do that particular profession. So that's what I did. And so I was familiar with the St. Louis area because of going to Principia College. I decided to come back to the St. Louis area to get my master's in social work at St. Louis University, and did that. And then, which was great because during the time that I was at Prin, my last year, is where I met Eric. And so I was able to, and his brother Chris, and was able to continue that relationship doing my master's program in St. Louis. And then I lived a year after in St. Louis, and then decided that I wanted to be closer to my parents who were on the East Coast. And so went back home to the East Coast to be near my parents, and continued my work in social work. However, I didn't go back to school social work until.
Wait, so you're telling us the story. So
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
gonna have you jump back. No, no, no. I'm gonna have you jump back.
Okay.
Take me to when that last year in school, when you met Eric.
Okay.
Take me to that. I know that there was a lot going on because you were in your final years of school. So there was quite a bit going on both sides. So take me to that. I mean, in the book, we talk about how you all met in a tutoring program. So let's go there. Tell me about Becky then.
Okay, so part of the experience or education at Principia College is to do community work, and specifically for me, like I mentioned, working with children. So obviously I would choose something like the tutoring situation. And actually I had two children that I was tutoring. It was Eric and another young boy, same age, 10 years old. And I worked with both of them. And I actually took both of them. Our first outing outside of tutoring was to the St. Louis Art Museum.
But before
And
that, when you first met Eric,
oh,
when you first met him, you were tutoring. I don't know if that was the first day of the program or if you were in it already a week. How did you get him at your table to begin what would have begun this relationship?
good Lord, girl, I don't remember that. Yeah, see, and it's funny because I obviously have read the book, and obviously have paid attention to the chapter where I mentioned. And Eric has, and as we've discussed many times before, has an incredible memory. And some of the things that he has shared with me that he remembers me saying, I'm like, oh my goodness gracious, I didn't even know he was listening to what I was saying. So I joke with him that thank goodness I was saying good things. And so when he talks about playing the math games, I honestly do not remember that. I do remember, like, I can visualize where we were, like the physical building that we were in, and there was lots of kids. And I remember I would go on a van from our college with a bunch of other college students. But I honestly do not remember how it is that, they paired us up with the students. I do remember, like I said, it was Eric and this other boy, and I do remember having wanting to I think it was like towards the end of wanting to kind of like celebrate our time together and take them out, because at that point I did have a car my last year at college. And so I remember reaching out, writing a letter to both the parents to get permission to do that. But yeah, I don't recall the details of.
But even that, so you and Eric were paired together, and
Yes.
you last year of school, you're in your 20s. We all know we're 20-year-olds. We're all like selfish and stuff during that time. So you're worried about what you got to do. And then there's this kid. inner city youth kid, I would say, that underrepresented, came to this program by way of a little yellow bus that came to pick him up in Alton Acre Projects, where he was made fun of every day up until the point where he was driving away on the bus to get to you. Um, for getting on the bus and having the bus come and pick him up, and you're stupid, why are you doing this program, and you should be hanging around with us and all that, to get there to where you are, and be encapsulated with learning. So in a sense, this was an outlet for him as a kid that took him into this area of life that has potentially guided him. And he did something in that instance, which was doing something different, stepping outside of comforts. But at that same time, when you all initially sat at the table playing math games and then going into it day after day after day, when he's like, oh, this girl, she's as good as I am, and so you motivated him to be better than you, not in a way like that, but to solve those problems quicker, faster, understand how to get there, how you got the answer. And that's what he focused on in preparation for seeing you the next day. And so it got to be a time where he got better than you, moving quicker, faster. And I think that's probably closer to this time when you said you're writing a letter, because I always wondered, how did you get them to get with you outside of this program? So you wrote this letter to the parents, and you were able to were you able to pick up the other child too, or just Eric?
No, it was Eric and the other child, and I actually have a picture of the two of them together in my dorm room at Principia, because I wanted to share with them about college, and but our first place we went was to the St. Louis Art Museum, and so yes, both parents of Eric and this other boy allowed me to do that, but when I asked if they would like to, because I was willing to again take both of them because I had a relationship with both of them, out to do other outings, the other parent, for whatever reason, just said no, and so then that's all. Of course, I mean, obviously, I knew about. Eric, I'm sure, had mentioned about his brother Chris, but so then that's when Chris started being part of the outings, and so I would bring them up to, because as you mentioned, being a college student, I guess I should go back and say that all my life I feel like I'm very blessed, in that I have a wonderful family who was able to provide for me and provide opportunities for me, and also were good role models in regard to sharing with others, and so I just always felt like I wanted to give back. I wanted to share what I had, even if it was not very much, because as you mentioned, as a college student, so what I had to share was them, to come up on campus, because I had a car, but I didn't have a lot of money. And so there were free sporting events that took place on the college campus. And my thought in regard to bringing them, and there was other social events that were community events that children in the community were invited, families in the community were invited to. So I would just, any kind of those activities, I would go get the boys and bring them up to campus. And my thought was to expose them to the idea that there is life after high school. I mean, obviously they weren't at high school yet, but that this is something that you can be a part of, if you so choose, when you graduate from high school, because that was something that's very common, and something that was always talked about in our household, but not necessarily in Eric's household. And so I wanted to expose them to that, and just other things as they came along, whatever was free.
Eric always talks about, I don't even know how Becky even afforded that stuff because I know she didn't have any money either.
Oh yeah, I became very skilled, and throughout my life, and when I later adopted my children, it was the same thing. I was always scouting out anything that we could do for free.
Absolutely. So do
Yeah.
you remember whenever I would say the moment, or I say how when someone asks me who you are to us, I always describe you as Becky. She's like his second mom. That's who Becky is. And when I say that, and to me, that means more like a lot of in depth, not just surface level. And
Right.
I suppose because I don't know if you realize, because we've talked about these things in sections, but not in one sitting. Do you realize that you've been to Eric's high school graduation, his associate graduation,
Mhm,
master's degree or bachelor's degree,
mhm,
master's,
mhm,
PhD? You've been to
mhm,
basic training graduation. You've
mhm.
been to his Bronze Star recipient ceremony. Um, that's a lot. So that's more than just, oh, this is a child that I see needs this, or who's not getting this opportunity. And to me, I would, if I was you, I would be asking myself, or I would ask you, what moment of realization did you have when you decided, okay, I'm not gonna just cross the T's and dot the I's on this one. I'm gonna do more.
Um, yeah, I mean, obviously that's why I was determined, because I actually, did realize that, as far as not as, like you mentioned, not as you're going along, but when by the time it came to the doctorate degree, I was like, there's no way in heck I was going to be missing that, because I had made all the other ones, so I was like determined. But I feel like probably I mean, I definitely knew I was an important part of their lives when I was getting my master's degree. And so that was because I also became close with his older sister and her children. Because obviously, when you're physically there, you can deepen that relationship with an individual. But I think it goes back to, for me, that again, why I like working with children, because there's lot of children that like you said, that I exposed to the college. It wasn't just Eric and his brother. There were other children, and actually I even had one of those children flew out to when I lived in North Carolina, and stayed with me for a little while. And so but it just um I guess it's I was starting to say that I just plant the seed. Like I don't know if that seed will germinate and grow into something, and I may never know with any of the other lives that I might have touched. But it doesn't matter. We need to plant that seed, in my opinion. That I feel like, I've been blessed and have so many people have touched my life. And again, so I just want to give back and touch other people's lives. And so I don't know, it may be just, one moment or one comment that I might say to someone that might impact them for the rest of their lives. But I think in specific, in regard to Eric and Chris, it was probably after, like, when I moved away from St. Louis and that relationship continued. Um, um, and I don't really, and I was gone away from St. Louis, living in North Carolina. I guess that was like for about 4 years or so. No, actually, it was a little bit longer, because it was about 4 years, actually. It was about 4 years. And so we would, communicate. He would, and I think it was also reciprocal, right? So it wasn't just me giving, giving, giving. There was communication, either from his mother or the two of them, as far as just kind of updating me on what was going on in life. And so just kind of keeping that connection. And I do that with everybody, even if it's just, a little bit. It doesn't have to be all the time. And then it just, our lives kind of, I ended up in Albuquerque and Eric was, in Fort Huachuca. So our proximity was close again. So we were able to build that relationship again, to be more close, to be closer because we were physically, closer. So, but I think all along I knew that it was something special, because it just kept continuing.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah,
It has
yeah.
kept continuing, and um, with Eric, you always hear those stories about kids, and they always talk about people giving up on them, you know,
Mm,
and things like that. And I know what you mean, and I can relate to planting the seed and reciprocal. Because you can keep giving, and we're all human, and essentially that's what we're supposed to do. But our human side of us allows us to tire out and things, but ultimately, some people continue to still do them, and those things sometimes wear you out. And you said connect, when I think of you, you're a connector. I
Yep.
don't travel to every state. Every time you're traveling, you have somewhere to stop to stay.
Yep.
Um, and that's like amazing. That is amazing. I know you. Where do you not have anyone where you where you can call and stay? No, you get in the car, you travel, you still drive.
Yep.
Everybody else is trying to get on a flight, and you still do
Oh
a
no.
lot of. Um,
I'd rather get in the car.
but is it because you're able to think when you're on the road, or why do you?
Yeah. Yeah. I love, I mean, physically it can get tiresome, but I do love that time to be able to reflect in the car. And I just in driving across country, and actually that's when I have a point in my life, who knows when that'll be, that I don't actually have to get from point A to point B during a certain time period. I would love to like do the back roads as opposed to the interstate. But yeah, it's a time to be able to reflect. And I think too, it's a time for you know, Eric talks about in his book about, yes, there were these different people that were important in his life, but he also talks about faith. And I think that that is very, I mean, it's very important to me. And obviously very important to Eric and you as well. But that faith, my faith, which happens to be Christian Science, has always been about that, focusing on our spiritual selves and God being the one who fills us up and gives us what we need when we need it, and directs our paths where we're supposed to go. So as far as being able to give and give, I don't see it actually really as me myself doing it, and I don't it's all coming through me, in my viewpoint, from God. And just I'm just that human um
That's
vessel to bless other people, but so I can keep going and I can keep giving, and I find joy. I mean, it's I love to see people smile and connect people, because when you're connecting people with other people or with opportunities or whatever, it brings joy. And so but it goes back to the faith of understanding that it's not me physically doing all of that. And it's interesting because looking back through the book again, it's that's, I think, like the title of his book, of how to get over yourself first. So that's, that's where recognizing that it's not all about you.
Right, right.
Yeah, and then how to move without the ball. That it to me, that's when I look back at my life, his book is what I was doing,
Mhm.
as far as, because God is the one who has directed me, and and when I'm not sure where I'm going, that's who I turn to, as far as, God, where do you want me to be? And that's playing the game, without the ball. Sometimes we do have the ball, and
Yeah,
it's very clear, and then other times, I don't. And but I have never it has never led God has never led me astray.
right.
And it's because I have those examples, those experiences, that I know I can always count on God to be there
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
play that game no
Right.
matter where we're going.
So let me ask you this, when you don't have the ball and you are talking with God, you know,
Mhm.
and praying about different things, what what is that process of how do you go from not having the ball to, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or this is how I was told that this is what I should be doing? What does that look like
Right, right.
for you?
Well, and yeah, it's for me, it's having that peace, and just like, not I don't I mean, yeah, there are like moments that I might stress, but I don't get totally stressed out, because God has always had my back before and will have my back, going forward. And so it's just, it's that trust. I mean, it's the ultimate trust, really.
Mhm.
The ultimate trust that there's a reason that I'm here, and my needs, one of in the Christian Science faith, a big, I guess, quote or citation that from Mary Baker Eddy, who discovered Christian Science, is divine love has always divine love always has met and always will meet every human need. And I have trust in that. I have faith in that. I've seen that
Mhm.
in action. And so if I know, as far as whether it's like the right decision or the right choice, I think if it's not the right decision or right choice, roadblocks will automatically be put in your way. And that's okay. You try and go around them or what, and so then that's maybe when you're led to a different option, a different choice. But then how you know that it's, finally right place or the right choice, is you feel at peace with it.
Mhm.
And like I said, I've seen that time and time again for myself. And that's what I hope for everyone. I would love for everyone to feel that peace or to feel that joy. And for me, it comes through my relationship with God.
Awesome. And I agree with that, and I would think that a lot of people would agree with you on that. I do, but I would say that in a lot of times, in regards to the book, moving without the ball, you do have to have faith in order to do that.
Yes. Yep.
But some people aren't able to, let's say, change mindset or get out of a stuck position. Um, and I believe that that would be due to the lack of faith. So what do you think you would say to an individual that was having or experiencing that, like how to build the faith? Because when I'm listening to you, you do a lot of seed planting.
Mhm.
And so you're having faith that not I'm doing this not to necessarily get something back, but I'm doing this, I'm planting it here and it should grow into something naturally. Um, so what do you think that you would tell someone who was having trouble with the lack of faith because ultimately this abundance of faith that you have allows you to be fearless and
Right.
and that creates you being different from other people, which sometimes creates negative and positivity, right? um
Right,
so
right.
how have you overcome those challenges, and what would you tell someone who would be dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean it is actually a tough one because you want, you naturally, I think as human beings, we want people to, find that joy and find that happiness and like, yeah, how do you do that? I mean, I think Eric's book is a wonderful like bridge or a wonderful way to like a guide for that, even if someone doesn't have that faith. I mean, that's my viewpoint. I mean, and it doesn't necessarily, to me, it doesn't necessarily need to be a faith in like a god or a specific god. I mean, there's all different kinds of ways of looking at that as far as faith, but I think it's got to be, and that's where I think, Eric talks about that. It's got to be, you got to get over yourself. It's got to be more than just you. If
Mhm.
it's all about you, then, and that's your, total focus, in my opinion, you're not going to get anywhere. And so, how do you get that across to someone? I mean, for me, I think it's one of the ways is by example, and just, just letting people see, that you can achieve these things, or you can feel happy, or you can find peace, just by doing it yourself, like demonstrating it yourself, so that it's real. I mean, it's a real thing. It's not just something you just talk about. It's
Mhm.
something that's real. So you're demonstrating it so other people see that, and so then hopefully that there's then a curiosity, like, how in the heck, why are you
Right.
so happy all the time? Or how did you do that? And so then there's a conversation. And so
Mhm.
then you can have that conversation. But in everyone, and I trust, God is, in my opinion, again, God is, in my belief, God is there for everyone.
Right.
It's just, are you willing to, let God in your life?
Mhm.
God loves everyone. God is there for everyone. God has the back of everyone. But, the everyone needs to recognize that that's, bring God into their lives. And some people aren't ready for that. And so it happens at different points. But that's not my job.
Right. Right.
As far as I don't have that burden of that. So I just let at the very end of the book, he talks about letting your light shine. That
Mhm.
I always believe that. And then I just, and I tell my kids that, just let your light shine. I mean, because really, again, going back to, it's not your personal light. And, it's the light that you're emanating, that's reflecting, coming from God. And
Right.
so let your light shine. And eventually, I think people, and it takes some people longer than others,
Mhm.
but you just keep loving, and you just keep giving, but make it real though too. I'm a person that I'm not all like, rainbows and
Yeah. Mhm.
and Eric could attest to that, that I make it real. And I think that that also is important to a lot of people who feel like, having a faith, or I don't know, living a certain way of life, that it's all rainbows. And I'm like, no, I mean, I'll give you the real stuff, and I'll be real with you, as far as where talking with an individual, where you need to be accountable, where you need to recognize, where you can, we all can improve. We always all can improve and better ourselves. That's will be until the end.
So you're what quarter you're headed into? You're the what mid, almost in third, right? Into.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
So what do you think? What are some of the things that you're reflecting on? that you are considering to be challenges, or what do you think is going to be good about going in the fourth chapter or fourth quarter? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts about that? And
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm like, oh Lord. I'm like, yeah, Lord will, divine love will always, yeah, meet my need because I have no idea what to expect going in because I'm just, I was just thinking about that last night as far as like, what am I doing to like prepare for this later part of
mhm,
life? And because I'm so like, in the now and not doing a very good job as far as I think, reflecting back, even though my parents tried to instill that in me, like you've got to prepare for when you're, ready to
yeah,
stop working. And so yeah, there's gonna be a lot of trust in God on that one. 'Cause I mean, we have some preparation for that, but not nearly as what I feel like would be a good nest egg. But we are, making preparations as far as like, we have not owned our home for a couple years, and I was determined that we were going to do that before my husband retires in 2 years.
mhm,
And I wanted it to be a home that, if I don't ever leave the St. Louis area again, that it's one that I can, live out my days in.
mhm.
My desire is not necessarily to live out my years in the St. Louis area, but I have no idea where I'm supposed to be or what the future holds, for moving forward. But I'm prepared if that's the case.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, and it's also, talking about like where you're at, and then it's like, then you have, I mean, if you have a family, so then you have your children, and so you're focused on, where are they at, and then but then you're in the sandwich because then you have
Yes.
your
You
older
are. Yeah.
parents
Mm-hmm.
who mine are in their 90s and so and still going strong and so trying to meet their needs because
Right.
you now are in a different role. I think, I mean, obviously you're always will be their child, their baby, but it's definitely a different role. um,
What
um,
role do you think you've had to jump into in order to be supportive of them?
Well, a lot of patience, I would say. Thankfully, I'm not the main caregiver. My sister lives physically near to them, so provides the not day to day, but like weekly, needs whenever they
Mhm.
arise there. But just doing things again, those connections as far as like just being talking to them on the phone and trying to show them, as maybe mundane as things going on in my life, sharing pictures, giving them updates. They love getting updates on Eric because, they, as like you said, I'm like his second mom. They're like his grandparents. So they are, they've read the book too, have copies of the book, have given out the book to some of the caretakers that come into the home. They're like, you need to read this book. But they've always followed, what's been going on with Eric and you and the kids, because, just right now they're living their lives through everyone else because
Right,
they
right.
can't get
Uh,
out and travel. So
yeah. I'm talking about the book. I've been meaning to ask you, what did you know what Eric's perspective of you was before you read the book, or were you totally surprised? Um,
yeah, I think because we've had I mean, we obviously have, it's not something, we've continued our relationship. So it's not like, I was a part of his life this one moment and then we are back in touch again kind of thing since we've been connected all these years. I was not completely surprised, but yes, I guess, and I shouldn't be surprised in regard to, just his memory of things. I mean, because we talk about some of the things.
Mhm.
But yeah, just I don't even really know how to put it into words in regard to like like um I know that I was an important part of his life, but I guess I didn't realize like really how important
Mhm.
until now, later, and we're looking back. Because
Mhm.
obviously I wasn't, I mean, obviously I knew that I always feel like, I have an impact on everybody's life in some form or fashion, or at least I hope, even if it's just a little bit.
Mhm.
But like, do you realize, does one really realize, how important?
Right.
And so yeah, just the different stories that we share. It's like you said, what I mentioned before, the things that he would share about what I would say to him, and when he says it, I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember, and that would be something that I would say, and I can't believe that you actually remember
Right.
that.
Yeah, he was watching and he's always been listening. Uh,
Yes,
and he does have
yes,
an incredible memory. You're absolutely right.
yes.
But one thing that you do, you've known him from kid 5, how old, 10 years
10,
up
yeah.
until now. And with excelling as a person, sometimes and we talk about this in first and second quarter of your life, you meet all of these individuals and they have these inputs into how you move forward, right? But then as you're going through your journey into that halftime and third quarter, sometimes you have to let go of some of the individuals that were a part of your life early on, because for some reason they aren't able to see you as where you're going and who you are present versus who you were when they first met you. And if I have to say one great quality in regards to you and Eric's relationship, it would be you've always grown with him. You haven't
Hmm.
kept him where you met him. You
Right,
haven't tried to like make him feel bad from who he is now versus who he was. And you've accepted it. And that speaks a lot of volumes to who you are as a person. And you probably have never even thought about that. But I describe you as, hey, this is she's like a second mom. But sometimes even me as a mom, I'll put myself into my kid's life and try to, do something. And you know him enough to be able to do that. But like I said, you grow with him and you accept it and you look forward to what's to come.
right.
And I think that that's a good thing. And so I don't know, do you want to provide some insight on that, because you probably haven't even thought about it that way.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you're right. We have talked about it because I think it's hard. I mean, I think it's hard for anyone who has come from like where Eric has come from. Um, because and I believe he talks about it in the book. I know we have talked about it, but like you want to bring everybody along. And that's I think again, that's a natural feeling of wanting other people to, at least for me anyway, wanting other people to experience what you're experiencing, because it feels so good. It feels great, and a lot of good things come from that, so you want other people to experience that. And also, I feel like Eric, I feel like he's been very genuine in regard to, while I mean, he's different, independent thinker, and, he has his mindset as far as what he wants to achieve and where he's going. And he's willing to bring anyone along with him. He's not saying, I'm not going to help you. I don't want you to be a part of this. He will bring anyone along who wants to come along, but he's also not going to have anyone stand in his way.
Right.
And if he and I feel the same way, actually. I mean, I tell this to my kids, like, we can love, I truly honestly love everyone. but I am not going to have people in my life that make me feel negative, that make me feel bad, that are somehow going to hinder me, because I want to feel good. And so, um if you're a part of my life, then you're making me feel good, right? You're supporting me. You're and that can be in a whole variety of ways, but you aren't trying to put a roadblock in my way. And it's hard because we want everyone to come along with us on that journey,
Yep.
and not everyone is willing or can, for whatever reason. But again, that's where, to be at peace with that. And, as you know, there have been several different times where we've had to have those deep conversations that you can't bring everybody with you on that journey. And it's not your responsibility. It's not. And that's where, you let go, let God. I mean, it's a true statement. That, you got to let it go and trust, that they are being cared for. They are, but it's not our responsibility. And that's hard. It's not an easy thing, and it's something we have to work through. But if we're gonna, achieve what we want to achieve, and have joy and peace in our lives, there's certain things that you have to do yourself, to make that happen. So, and I think he's done that with grace, and as because and if you can't do it, bring everybody, as far as like, the family and the friends that you knew from that time period. I look at it again, it's not my responsibility, but you know what? There's always someone else that is receptive and willing to come along with you, on that journey, that you can pay it forward.
Absolutely. So that is what makes you a hero, because what you just explained is what you did way on early on. That's how you and Eric met. Um, with what was going on, and as you going through school and all types of things, putting all that in, building relationships, not letting others deter you, because I'm sure there's probably plenty of people that say, why are you spending time with those little kids, like what?
I know. Like, what are you doing?
But you didn't listen. You were different. You kept going at it for whatever reasons, your faith, your relationship with God, and you've been able to create impact in a lot of people's lives. And I think you're so genuinely doing it and in tune with what you do, because that's who you are and how you would do it, that you don't even realize or take a time to look at selfishly how you impacted these individuals.
Right.
No,
Right.
seriously. I mean,
Right.
adopted, you know what I mean? You've had other kids that you've counseled. Eric remembers a time of you taking him. He thought that him and his brother had it bad, but when you took him to another children home that in St. Louis with their mom and the way it was set up, he knew that day that his life was not as bad as that person's in East St. Louis, and he didn't know anyone was living worse than him. So, I mean, you gave him a wide awakening. So there's been a lot of lives that you have impacted. Um, and God and dealing with how that works. And just like what we talk about in the book, is better to be selfless than selfish. And all of this stuff that you give, you're not seeking or doing it for the wrong reason, but you do get tenfold back. So
Right.
I'm excited to see what Becky's tenfold is. No, seriously, I am. So I think we'll end it there, because you've truly showed what it is to make the mission greater than you.
Right. Well,
Um,
I mean, it's been a blessing. I mean, I'm just, tickled to death as far as, watching Eric grow, and you never know. I mean, you never know when you're, working with someone, whether they're as young as 10 or, even older. You have no idea. And so yeah, it's just so much fun to see, what he's done and the man that he's become and is still, doing amazing things. So
Absolutely.
I'm blessed to be a part of it.
Yeah, and we talk about those people that play parts in your life as you move on, their training, their mentors. You could end up being mentee or mentor to those people in the roles reversed. And that's been you providing those in other people's lives, but then those people feeding back and giving to you in different ways too. So it's really important about who your community is and how you build that and
Yep.
how you stay in touch. You
Mhm.
every year you sit down. What tell me what goes in your mind when you do that? You sit down and you wrote a letter and you let everybody know what you've done throughout the whole year, who you've gone to visit. You even include the people that you went to visit, pictures. That's something you do that no one else I know does that, Becky. And it's like we look forward to it. Even though we might talk during the year, so we know what you're
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
but we still look forward to this letter. So tell me why you do that and why you continue to do it.
Well, that it's tradition actually. That was my parents. They've written every year since I can remember, and I'm sure before. But definitely since they had a family, would send out a Christmas letter, and they have, a whole, I mean, all over the world, they send letters to in the old fashioned with a stamp on the envelope, out to everyone, that and some people they only, keep in contact once a year. They exchange Christmas letters, but that's what I had growing up, and I think it was more prevalent during
Mhm.
my day of when I was younger. That we would get lots of Christmas letters, and I know my parents still do. And it's just a way of connecting. But I liken it to Facebook. Facebook is just immediate of posting on, where you're going, what you're doing, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that's the modern day Christmas letter. I mean, as far as just, sitting down and just trying to highlight, what you did during the year and what's going on with the kids. And just nowadays people, do it through the social media as opposed to that one letter a year. But we didn't have social media growing up, so it was the Christmas letter.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, I look forward to those letters.
yeah, well, you do me well, because I haven't done one in
I
actually
know
since,
you haven't, but I also
yeah, since prior to COVID, and that was just kind of a strange, I think, thing. And so, but there is one coming this year because I feel like I've lost connection, and I want to reconnect with people, since the whole COVID era. So so stay tuned. There will be one coming soon.
all right. Well, thanks, Becky, for your time. We appreciate you being a guest on the show. And we look forward to the likes and the comments and the different people subscribing that we get based on the video that you and I have done. So thank you. Stay tuned.
Thank you, LaSharis.
All right. So I'll stop it there. But you're a
Okay.
hard cookie to break.
Oh my goodness gracious. What do you say? You want me to do another one? We'll do part two, and then you can crack the cookie.
No, no. You're fine because I can get some reels or whatever off of it. But you're good. You're good. You're just hard to
Oh,
crack down. I didn't know that about you.
oh, that's so funny. Well, what are some things that you've done? I mean, because it's I should have actually what I should have done it, but that would have made me nervous going and looking what other people have done on the thing.
Oh no, it wouldn't have made. I thought about telling you that too, but I didn't tell you to do that.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting that I think that you're not an emotional person, are you?
No.
No.
I cry watching movies, but no. Well, I almost teared up though there for a second, but I controlled myself.
Yeah, but even on a different level, you're not an emotional, you're more of a realist.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I did not, I thought that you were both maybe, but you're not. You're more, you're 95% realist, not 5% emotional.
Oh, that's hysterical. So like, are you saying like when you're talking with other people, like what are you talking about as far as like emotion that you've seen with other people?
Um, like I guess feelings or thoughts. Yours are, and it's nothing wrong with it, yours are
Yeah.
just more on the practical side than they are on
Yeah.
emotional or feeling side. That's what,
Okay. Okay.
and so I was saying that I know I know you, but I wouldn't have been able to describe that until after this disengagement. I never really thought about it. Yeah, I didn't know that.
That is so true though. That is right on actually.
So now
Yeah.
I know, yeah. So that's when you do things, you do them very intentionally. You do it because it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, and that's it.
Yep, yep. Yeah, that's actually that is so true. I mean, and I think, it's interesting now you say that, like if you're gonna see emotion from me, it's generally when I'm pissed off, and that's where you see like that raw emotion.
Mhm.
But other than that, yeah, I'm not very
Yeah, that's interesting to know.
yeah,
I didn't know that
yeah.
about you. What do you guys got planned for the rest of the day?
So, Harold is here actually. Well, not
Oh, cool.
here like right at this moment, but he flew in Wednesday and he drove the car to take Michaela to and himself to go see his mom in Indianapolis. So I think they actually had a whole get together, a bunch of family get together in Indianapolis, and they're headed back tonight. And yeah, and also too, maybe because I've just been running ragged, because we bought the house and I've been we before they left,